We made it through another year of gaming.
We played a lot and reviewed a lot of games this year, but which ones were our favorites?
This is our top 10 list of favorite new to me games of 2024. How it works, we compiled a list of all the games we played this year. I chose my favorites and Lee chose his.
Per our usual rules, we will not be including any games we previewed or our own games in this list.
That's right, but with its release this year, we hope our game Time Lancers makes your top list of 2025. So Lee, how'd you put your list together?
So what I usually like doing is I take our whole list and then I just kind of put it in an algorithm, or I just sit down and I say, okay, these two games, which one do I like more? And I pick one. And then I go down and say, okay, these two games, which one do I like more? And so eventually I end up with my top 10.
Number 10 on Lee's list, Raiders of the North Sea. So Lee, what's your favorite thing about this game?
The best thing I like about this game is when you're playing it, you have the worker placement, worker retrieval. You can upgrade the workers, or it's a progression. So everyone starts out with the same workers, but then as everyone gets better and better, you get better workers, but then you have to place it down and other people can get it. So I like the progression of how this game goes. Like as everyone else gets stronger, you can kind of capitalize on that. Like there isn't really a super strong person, and there's just different paths of victory that just make it somewhat equal in my eyes. Kenny, your number 10 was Skyrise. How did this make your list?
I really like the dynamics of how you're bidding and going after the different areas, using your structures to bid on them. And you got to determine, when do I want to bid? Do I want to outbid them now? Do I want to wait? Do I want this section? Because it's also kind of a set collection game where you've got to collect the different tokens to maximize your scoring at the end. I really like all the different things you have to think about while you're playing it. It's an auction game, set collection, area majority, all those mechanics combined. I really enjoyed that. Lee, your number 9 is also Skyrise.
Yep, it's a little bit higher. I really enjoyed this. Probably the version that we got too, like the little figurines or the buildings that we had. It's fun just having that there, and then the board is like the floating city, right? So I really enjoyed the bidding. Like, okay, I'll put down a 1, but then maybe you want to put down a 100 because that's definitely something you want. I like that thought process where all the players sit there and they're like, okay, he put down 22 and I've got 27, or could I win it with like a 33 and then no one else wants it? So I like that kind of dynamic of almost bluffing. It's like, he's bluffing. He doesn't really want it. So I like that part of this game and how that's incorporated. And your number 9, let's go to Japan. Tell me about it.
So I really enjoy the traveling aspect of this game. I like how you're looking at all the different places in Kyoto and Tokyo, and you have the pink cards and the blue cards, and you got to set up your perfect itinerary. That theming just hits home to me because every time that I go on a trip, I always like planning everything and thinking and looking at how everything we can do this, we can do this, we can do this, and really maximizing the itinerary as much as possible. So I really enjoy all the aspects of this game. And your number 8 is a cheesy one, Fromage. Why do you like it?
So I like how the center of the board is rotating. And so whenever it's in front of you, you're focusing on like, okay, how does this score again? And then you can see what's coming next too. So really you're only worried about those two things. So it's not too much analysis paralysis, but I just really like how you're kind of shifting like, okay, I'm focusing on the pairs here. Okay, this one I'm focusing on rows. And it just, I don't know, the way it flows, and then the theming too, you got cheeses and cows and goats and whatever. So I don't know, I really enjoyed it. And your number 8, Biohack. How'd this make it?
I love the mechanic of when you pull your worker back, you're going to get more depending on how many workers are still left on certain locations. So when you're playing with other people, it's, should I pull it back now to get something better? Or there's another section of the board where it's also first come, first served to get better abilities when you play over on the other side. So do I play the worker that I just pulled back, or do I pull back another worker? And I like that dynamic of having to think of, which one do I do? So it's an interesting new mechanic in worker placement that I haven't really seen before. Number 7 for you is Inventors of the South Tigris. Tell us about it.
So the South Tigris is the new Shem Phillips trilogy. I really like it. We played the Wayfarers, which we really enjoyed with the dice. This one's fun too. You have a little tower. I think I really like that the most because you're trying to climb this tower with your workers, and then each level that you get more and more like rewards and abilities. I didn't like how the workers, like they get tired. Like all my workers need to be in tip-top shape and keep going. But there's a lot other things going on as you're trying to build up your caravans or your cities or villages. So I like how it all flows together, and then the worker placement is always there too. So number 7 for you was Unconscious Mind. How'd that get in there?
So I really enjoy so much about this game. The theme is awesome. The artwork is beautiful. It's Andrew Bosley who does Everdell. Artwork is great. You're going to love everything you're looking at as you're building up on your dreams. But I really enjoy the worker placement of this game. First off, your worker is a thought bubble, and as you place it, the arrow that your thought bubble is kind of pointing at is the different action that you'll be getting. And that's important because you're going to go on either the top line or the bottom line above that action, and that'll determine how many ink spots you move on your player board. And that can then chain off different actions that you can do on your own player board. So I like the two-step process. Okay, I want this action, but I need 2 ink spots, so I'm going to go on the top and point my worker that way, and then be able to set off this chain of actions. I like a lot about this game. Number 6 on your list, small box game, Expressions.
So this game, it plays in 15 minutes. We met the creator at Gen Con and we played with just a bunch of friends, and I just really enjoy this game. Everyone's got their numbers, it's different colors, it's like expressions on the cards, and you're just trying to deduce what everyone has, and it's just kind of a team working towards a winning goal. So this is really fun, and when you're just sitting there and you're like, oh, you have a red 3, and it's like, nope, and everyone's just like, ah, you're killing us, man. So it's a fun time to be had around. And, you know, I'm always a fan of like the group party games or just fun games that includes a lot of friends. For your number 6, looks like you're still dreaming about dreams, Neo Dreams.
Neo Dreams. I really enjoyed this game. It's kind of funny that there's 2 really good games that came out this year all about dreams. You have Neo Dreams, you have Unconscious Mind. I like this one a little bit more. It's a little bit less of a table hog, so that's a good plus if you're trying to play it in a smaller area. But I just really like the chaining of actions with this one because it's also a set collection. You're trying to build up your dreamscape, and I like that you're gaining abilities. And there's 3 different types of abilities that you can get on the 3 different types of dreams. One is when you place a client on it, you activate it. One, you can activate it after you place a worker and you can activate all of them. And then the other one is activated when you meet the conditions of it. And depending on which card you have, you can really get a nice synergistic game going of the different mechanics of as you're playing, you can activate different things. You can really get nice change going. Love the artwork, love the theming, a lot of fun, and it doesn't take that long to play either. Your next one, Change My Mind, number 5.
This was awesome. We also met the creators at Gen Con, also played it with a bunch of friends, and it's just great times. This one, it's a ranking. You have one person who's kind of the judge, and they're given a scenario. And I think what really draws me to this is just a lot of the cards where it just really resonated or stuck with me were like the more adult or adult themed or like kind of raunchy ones. It's just really funny in a room of adults and you're like, oh my.
There are definitely some raunchy ones in there.
Exactly. And so you're going through it and it's one of those scenarios like you're sitting around talking with people. It's like, hey, would you rather eat a bag of mold or a bag of like bird droppings or something? It's like, oh man. And then like, oh, well, I think he would eat it this way. So, those conversations break out and they're just hilarious to me. So that's why this is like higher up on the list for me. Next up on your list, Fromage.
Yeah, so you had it a little bit lower on your list, but I could see that we both really liked it. First thing that I really liked about it when we were doing the unboxing and when we saw it on Kickstarter was the Lazy Susan board. I like the concept of you have your worker placement and it's spinning around and you have your little section that you're working in. I also like that how the workers are placed in it. As it spins around, that determines when you're going to get your workers back. And I like games where you have to plan ahead, but I don't want to plan like 50 moves ahead. I'm not a chess grandmaster, but 2 moves ahead, 3 moves ahead, maybe even 4 moves ahead if you're thinking about it. That's kind of perfect with this one because, okay, I can only use 2 of my workers unless I have a spot on my player board. For the most part, I can only use 2 of my workers. I'm going to make cheese. I'm going to get some resources. So I have 3 workers. So if I set one that's going to take 2 spots, I will still be able to get these 2 back if I'm going to get them back on the next one. Or do I have 1 go for 3, and then I'm only going to have 1 worker in one of those rounds? So it's really interesting to think about, oh, I'm going to make cheese, I'm going to get these resources, I'm going to skip resources on this one, and then when I get back to here, then I'll get that other one, and I'll get those 2. So I really like how you have to think about that. Number 4 on your list, Freud scores again, Unconscious Mind.
So Unconscious Mind, on top of all the things that you said, right? The thought bubbles were interesting. They point in different directions. So, it tries to consolidate all the worker spots. So you don't, you're not reaching everywhere. It's really in one little spot here. The biggest thing, I've always been a fan of just dreams, dream interpretations. And the artwork on this one, it's great. It's, you're grabbing dreams and your patients have these and you need to cure them, but they're just very abstract like dreams should be. And there's also some transparent cards too that add to points and things that you can get. So you're also trying to remove those too. So I really like the whole dream themes overall. I think I'm gravitating more towards those games. It's fun thinking about how our minds work out, and that's what drew me to it more too. Number 4 on your list is another one coming back, Expressions.
So it is a co-op game, and normally I'm not a big co-op person. However, this one just ticks all the right boxes. It's a social deduction game. We got to figure out the other player's cards, and you can give clues. And I really like trying to think of what's the least amount of information I can give someone and still get the point of what I'm trying to say to them to come across to them. And as Lee pointed out earlier, like, oh, I think you have a red 2, and like, no, he doesn't have that, and everyone gets disappointed. However, if it's like, oh, you have a green 5, and there's no clues, there's nothing, he just, oh, you have a green 5, and everyone's just like, how did you figure that out? That's what I really like about it. When people just come up with that thing, you're like, oh, how did you know that? Like, you have to tell us, how did you figure that out? And that's what I really like about this game.
I cheat.
Cheat. Number 3 on your list makes a return. Let's go to Japan, making our second trip.
So this was really fun to me because I like Japan. I like the Japan themes and everything, anime. I've never been to Japan. That's on a bucket list for me. But what I really like about this, because it scratches that itch of people who are just planners. Like you like, okay, this is what we're doing. And I like how this game, you do that, right? You're like, okay, let's do this. Let's visit here, set collection. We're going to do this on this day. So there's a day of the week and there's like events that you're adding, 3 events per day, which sounds realistic and reasonable. And you also have to take into account the logistical traveling, right? So if you do Kyoto or Tokyo, like, how are we getting there? Like, if you don't have a train ticket, that's going to cost you. So I like how they connect all those. And at the very end, you're just kind of figuring out, okay, who planned the best trip? Your number 3, Sail.
Sail. So one thing I really like about this, it's a 2-player game. So normally we're not big 2-player game fans. However, this one just really was a lot of fun. And even if you have multiple people, like, it's even fun watching 2 players trying to figure out how they're going to navigate across the board in order to win. And it's a trick-taking game and you can't talk. So it really reminded me of The Crew, and I really loved that game. I think it made my list last year. And the board's a lot of fun as you're playing, and you got to watch out for the rocks. You got to watch out for the Kraken. You got to try to get your ship to the end. You got to win to move it this way. They got to win to move it this way. You don't want to take too many turns or you're going to run out of cards. So I just like a lot about this. It's a small box game. Doesn't take up a lot of table space. A lot of fun. Love the theming. Love the mechanics. Just love everything about it. And number 2 on your list, coming back, Biohack.
So Biohack, you already mentioned the worker placement, put it down, take it back, get something more if there's more there. I really like that. It was new, but it's the decision making you have to decide too. Like, okay, do I go here? Do I go here? Other than that, the artwork is great. I like how the animals or creatures that are like being displayed are kind of mythological creatures or just fantasy creatures. So you might have your Pegasus or your Griffins or, your other creatures from different cultures too. So I really like how there's a slight educational part of it too. When you're looking at these, like, oh, I know a phoenix is from this, or a hydra. I remember that from Hercules or from Greek myth. Your next one, let's call it a wheel because we're reinventing it.
So Inventors. Last year, Wayfarers made the top of my list. I just really love that game. Inventors is the right combination of brain burn, but being very easy to introduce people because it's not too complicated what you're doing on your turn. You're going to be placing your dice as a dice worker placement. In all of the South Tiger series, is dice worker placement. And then you can end up doing a lot more with that. You got to really think about it. And the other thing that I really enjoy about Inventors is there's a lot of player interaction because you're going to be inventing, building, publishing, testing, and every player can kind of get involved with that. The only reason why this didn't make it to number 1 and why number 1 is what it is, I think this could have been pared down just a little bit more and it would have been right up there with Wayfarers. However, Inventors is still a really strong game and a great game that came out this year from Shem Phillips. And Lee, your number 1 is Ostia.
And your number 1 is Ostia.
We didn't plan that. We both did our own list separately and we both came up with Ostia. The reason why I like this game is just from the moment that I learned this game, I was like, this is an awesome game. I probably played it 4 or 5 times on that night after I learned it, just wanting to play it more and wanting to experience what this game can have you do as you're playing with that Mancala mechanic. I love how when you get your resources based on where you start and the actions you can do of where you go, everything about it. I like moving around on the ocean board and as you're getting to the end and all the different ways that you can score. It's a good point salad. There's just so much about this game I love. Every time we play it, I love it. Every time we're not playing it, I'm like, we should be playing Ostia.
Going back to that mechanic, that Mancala, your little wheel, and you got to plan like, okay, when I land here, this is the action I'm taking. So you're adding the little cubes around just so that, you know, it lets you plan ahead a little bit. So being able to plan ahead and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, my next move, I'll do that. And then I can chain there. So I like that. Additionally, the expansions that they have, I believe really do make the game more, or just like something a little bit different that you're like, oh, cool. I really like how they expand it and it just keeps growing and it's still fun.
And that was our top 10 list of favorite new to me games of 2024.
What'd you think of our list? What are your favorite games of 2024? Let us know in the comments below.
We hope that our game Time Lancers will make your top 10 list of 2025. To find out more information or where or when to buy it, check out the links in our description below.
And if you're enjoying our content, please like this video and subscribe to our channel.
All of your likes and subscribes will help our new year start off with a bang.
Until next time, I'm Lee.
And I'm Kenny. I go party like a board gamer.